What's up, GERO 508? All right, it is still July 7th, but now we're going to go on to module. Let's see, I think it's module 6. Module 6. We're going to be doing the microbiome, okay? And microbiome refers to the gut that proliferate the gut and the bacteria that proliferate in the gut, and then how that is going to affect the mind, the body. Okay. Alrighty. It was important that we went over detail this concept of psychoneuroimmunology because there is a lot of immunology that's going on in the gut, and you'll see this. And again, it's modifiable immunology. And so this is like, a career path, a career track for a lot of you guys, okay? Alrighty, so what am I talking about here, all right? So we can, do it through the widget or through the table of contents. Let's use the widget since we've used them, all right? There it is, all right? So we did module 6, now we're going to do module 7, all right? All right, this is the gut-brain interactions in mental health and chronic brain disease, okay? So who knew, okay? This is a big deal now. A lot of people know this, okay? And so let's kind of look what we've offered up to you and explain to you what we want you to go through. So I'm not going to be as verbose this time around as I was last time, okay? But you're going to see why it was important to prime you in terms of psychoneuroimmunology, all right? What are we doing down here? Okay, so we're going to talk about in your discussion how the bacteria in your gut influences your brain, okay, and what impact do changes in gut bacteria have on mental health, okay, and these are the things that you want to be thinking about in your discussion. How does bacteria influence your inflammatory state, and then how does that influence mental health? Okay, and we're talking about that right here. And how might having a vegetarian diet improve the gut-to-brain interactions? All right, those are the key concepts right there. All right, and so we can go right in here into the readings and the videos. All righty, awesome. Okay, this has got a really, it's got some real nice videos, okay, that start simple and get a little more complicated, okay? You guys are not biologists, so you don't need to know the crazy ins and outs of the heavy biology, but if you just watch it, it's really interesting. So we have that. We have one really nice simple reading as well to go along with it, okay? This is, your enlightenment, okay? We have a couple articles at the very bottom, okay, that are for you, okay, that are not part of the quizzes, not part of the midterm, okay. We have a couple of articles that are, okay, but I'll show you what I'm talking about, all right. So, and there's this whole new science and field of nutrition, okay, as I'm talking about right here, that is about reduction of widespread inflammation to improve health, including mental health, okay? And so I actually know a couple of students have graduated for our program, and so they act as consultants, and they design diets based on what's called the dietary inflammatory index of the different foods that their clients are going to be eating. So they're trying to help them, trying to redirect them, and they're using science and they're using a very quantitative measure where they're going to give this person, because this is where your numbers are at now, and this is your goal number that we're going to get you down. And there's something about numbers that's more palatable and will bring people on board. All right? Awesome. Okay. So this is the overview article. It's Psych Science Hub. It's amazing. Okay. Hopefully, we see if we can get right into it here. Take us right to it. There it is, okay? This guy does a great job of discussing the kind of bidirectional interaction between our gut and between our brains, okay? Now, when we're looking at the gut-to-brain axis, okay, an axis is a bidirectional interaction. He talks about, okay, stuff we've looked at, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, okay? One's pro-inflammatory, one's anti-inflammatory. And this is in our autonomic nervous system, all right? So in his review, okay, as he goes through it, he He talks about kind of crazy concepts. Okay, this is a number that has been tossed around for a long time. We look at trillions of cells. Okay, and the numbers I've seen, for example, is that we have 30 trillion cells in our body. This is everybody: heart, skin, brain, immune, everything all combined is 30 trillion. But we have 40 trillion to 300 trillion, in that range, bacteria, okay, that are in our bodies, and most of them are in our gut, okay? So this microbiome is a big deal, okay? And so he talks about, the most prominent bacteria. Um, he talks about the link, okay? And then we get into the vagus nerve here, okay? And how it is all taken together. Now, what I want to do is I want to go back. Before we get into this, I have a GIF, okay, there's really cool that talks about things. It reiterates what we're seeing right here, okay? So these are the special cells of your intestines. So this would be the food coming in here through the intestinal tube. The tube is opening called the lumen, okay? And then millions of cells that line the inner lining of your intestines, and they have these little tiny like finger-like projections that help you absorb all of your sugar and your amino acids and your fats and things like that when you just had a meal. These are called enterocytes, okay? Alrighty. Now the enterocytes, okay, are the first interaction between you and bacteria, okay? So there's a lot of lymphoid tissue and other types of immune systems, like the myeloid cells, okay? So they show the lymphoid tissue right here, okay? And these guys are going to be releasing cytokines, okay, that are going to go back up into the brain and affect your overall well-being, okay? If we can activate the sympathetic nervous system, it can send axons down this way, the vagus nerve, that will reduce our gut inflammation, right? That's the basic concept right now. And I'm not going to go through the entire article, but he does it step by step in a really sensible way, okay? All right, so we're going to go over here, okay? And I want to get to the point that kind of shows you and illustrates. Here it is right here, all right? So this is in his article, and it goes step by step what's going on here, all right? So these right here are these specialized, okay, gut lining cells, okay? They have the villi for absorption, and there's a step-by-step look at the interaction, all right? So we actually have cells inside our gut that will release contents that are neuroactive, that go up into the brain and affect how we feel. Serotonin, CCK, these are all transmitters. Now, if we obviously have a lot of bacteria down here. So you see them all, the different types of bacteria based on the food that we're eating. So we need to have all these immune system cells, dendritic cells releasing cytokines, B cells releasing cytokines, all these different cytokines right here that get released into the brain, and that's going to affect our overall well-being as well. Okay, now one thing that is modifiable that we're showing right here is that, again, these are the transmitters released by our gut, the cytokines being released, and then down here, the brain, as we can see right here, can also release factors that will modify this function down here, including adrenaline, which can be a bad thing, okay? That's the basis of this. So we have nervous system releasing both acetylcholine that we saw right here, based on if we're low stress, or nervous system over here releasing adrenaline during high stress, and that's going to impact the state over here. Now, the key concept here is, what can we do? Okay, so we have the vagus nerve, like I was talking about. It's going to be sensing, okay, what's going on in the gut. So if you have really nasty bacteria, remember I told you the bacteria had this candy coating on their surface, that's going to activate the input up into the brain, okay? That's what this is right here. Afferent is access to the brain, A for access, okay? This is both in the vagus nervous system and the spinal cord. And that's gonna then change our overall stress system, okay, that we've talked about. It regulates your emotions, okay, if it's too active or not active enough. It all depends, what's going on, influenced by the content of your gut, specifically the bacteria that are populating. Okay, alrighty. Serotonin is the target drug when we take antidepressants, and we have a lot of serotonin that is produced, okay, in our gut. Okay, most of the serotonin is down here in our gut. So if you're having problems with serotonin up here, you're probably having problems with serotonin down here. That's going to give you GI problems. Okay, the immune system is, of course, highly populated down there. All right, 70% of the immune system is down in the gut because we're constantly putting things in our mouth, okay, that have bacteria in them. Okay, you can get altered permeability. Okay, stress can make this worse, making it more inflammatory, and then, like I said, the microbial metabolites. So you read through that and conceptualize all that. Okay, all righty. Now there's a number of different videos now, though, once you've gone through this reading, that will help you to understand. This is a really cool, simplistic, but a very nice biological cartoon basis of the microbiome and what's going on and how depending on what and it makes perfect sense. You have, thousands and thousands of different types of bacteria, and just like anything else, some plants you put in the soil and they'll do well in one condition and they'll die in another condition, but other plants will live well in that condition. Okay, same thing down in our gut. The bacteria, some ones just do great on sugar and do great on certain proteins and do great on fat, and then other ones do much better in terms of fiber and the essential components that we see in a more plant-based diet. So depending on what food you are eating, it is the food that's feeding the bacteria, and the bacteria levels will then change. That's what this is all about right here. Okay, awesome. Then this right here is a nice complementary video that gets a little more complicated, but it's very cool, and it talks about this gut to brain interaction, and it talks about the vagus nerve, okay, and how we have substances like serotonin. Again, this is the target of classic antidepressant medications. They're called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, okay, but we also see that serotonin levels change based on what we're eating, okay? And then this is another key element that helps to suppress anxiety, okay? A lot of the drugs that we take that are called anxiolytic drugs, okay? Drugs like Xanax or Ambien, they work by increasing GABA. And so we see that, again, depending on the kind of food we eat, we can increase the amount of GABA in the brain as well. So it's really cool here. And then so that's the complementary one, getting a little more complex. And this one is really well done scientifically, that shows the cells and how they interact. It gets a little more complicated about things you don't need to know about the different components of the gut in terms of this. They call this the mucosal lining of the gut, okay? So we see this will be the food and the bacteria. This is the immune system responding to, you see the leaky gut and the bacteria coming in. So why does it get leaky? It's inflammatory. When you have inflammation, then just like you had inflammation in when let's say you twisted your knee and it got swollen, it's because the blood vessels have gotten leaky. Well, the same thing happens down here in the gut. Depending on the kind of food we eat, it can get leaky, and then the contents of the bacteria get in, different bits and pieces, activate the immune system, and then you spiral out of control in terms of inflammation. This can cause the cytokines to go up to the brain and affect your mental state, okay? And it can also create a pro-inflammatory state that will cause cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, et cetera, okay? This is why this is super important to think about, guys. Okay. All right, now this is the For Your Enlightenment component, okay? But these are two articles, okay, that are really cool, and this talks about the development of this dietary inflammatory index, okay? So this is a tool that then you can use as a practitioner, that you will evaluate your client's diet and give them a numerical value of what their inflammatory index is for food. And you can evaluate them by doing a survey and saying, okay, let's talk about your typical meals. And then you will then introduce foods that will help lower that inflammatory index, okay? And then your readout then would be potentially working, and this would be a big group, working with a psychologist would see how their overall mental state does. All right, so this right here shows you that very effect. And again, I just throw it out here for you guys to look at. And this is looking at the antidepressive effect of dietary intervention. So using a more Mediterranean diet, and they talk about here, to improve overall mental health. So it's a really cool concept. Again, this, we could have an entire course solely on this. We don't, okay? But it's still really, it's a great introduction for you guys to think about in terms of, again, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, okay? We think about cytokines, the immune system, okay? Those cells that line your gut, okay? Called enterocytes, okay? And they can get inflamed, cause separation, in comes the bacteria, activation of the immune system. The immune system then tells the brain, we got a problem through cytokines. The brain then starts feeling, I don't feel so well, okay, like a depressive state from the cytokines. And then what can we do to fix that, okay? So we got to get rid of the adrenaline, control our stress, because that's doing the same thing, okay? When you're stressed, you see the gut cells is releasing adrenaline, okay? I mean, the nerve cells are releasing adrenaline. So let's release acetylcholine. That is part of it, and then the other part is changing the diet. All right? Hopefully you guys get this concept. Peace, and I look forward to grading all your papers this week.